Thank you guys so much for coming to this talk today. We've got Arthur Tress here. He is coming in live from San Francisco. He's a real amazing OG photographer who is in a lot of major museum collections. And I want to point out anybody who's maybe in the Los Angeles area, there is a show right now called Queer Lens, which is up at the Getty, and Arthur has two works in there, one of which is a cruising photo from the Ramble. And so I think that's really cool. What's really interesting is uh, this work that we're going to be talking about today, these cruising photos, they were shot in the 1960s and 1970s, and they've largely not been seen until now, possibly because audiences were just not ready for it. But for some reason, in like the last 2 years, this work has it's found its audience, which is really cool. Like this work has had essays. It's clearly here in the Apex Art Show. It's being featured at the Getty. It's going to be featured at another art gallery in Manhattan later this year. And so apparently now is the time for this work. So now is the time for this conversation. And so we're going to have a conversation today with Arthur about his time as a photographer in New York City in the 1960s. He is still photographing today and producing work, so I don't want to say that his time as a photographer is done. He is still very much an active photographer. But this is really not an artist talk per se. Really, what I want to do is spend some time and hear firsthand from Arthur what it was like to cruise in Central Park in the 1960s, what that meant to him, why he did this work, and to hear firsthand from a true gay elder who lived it, because I think that it's really important to continue this generational memory. Oftentimes, I say that queer people have poor generational memory because we lack the structures, churches, schools, books, traditions that help continue on our history. So it's very important that we hear from folks like Arthur and let them share their story for us. So, Arthur, welcome. How are you doing today?
Okay, it's a nice sunny day here in San Francisco. And, you know, talking about how I began the Ramble series, I lived at 72nd and Riverside, which is only like a 10 minutes walk to Central Park.
And you were a New Yorker too, right? You were born in like New York.
Yeah, I was born in Brooklyn. And then when I was about 25 years old, I got my own apartment in Manhattan. So I had experienced the city for many years. And actually, it was sort of the locus point for my first sexual experiences, and as I was coming out.
Hmm.
So it sort of laid its imprint on me in a certain way.
And you, I mean, relatively for the time, as you've told me, were out and experimenting pretty young. Often, I think some of that was from your older sister, who kind of introduced you to this world. You had an older sister, who passed away a
Yeah.
few years ago, who was a lesbian.
Okay, let me see if I can get
Oh,
her
you have
in.
a photo of her on the wall? Yeah, yeah, we see her behind you. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, move the camera over. I don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
I don't think we can move your camera, but
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
But yeah, that's your older sister who kind of introduced you first to the idea of being gay in New York City.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's my picture of Madeline, and it seems frozen. Something's happened.
It'll catch up. It'll catch up.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Madeline uh, went to school at Georgetown University, and uh, it doesn't seem right. The
Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out in a few minutes. Just keep on talking.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, Madeline went to Georgetown University. She was out in high school. She was a president of her high school and um, Erasmus. And so uh, she went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. with her dream of being working for the State Department. This was in 1955. And unfortunately, she got caught up in the Pink Scare. And there's actually an FX documentary about her called Pride, where she's interviewed by the FBI. That's quite interesting. So I hung out with Madeline quite a bit when I was younger. So,
Um,
and yes,
and so when was the first time that you remember, like how old were you when you first started going to Central Park to the Ramble?
well, that was later, probably in college when I was living on Riverside Drive,
Hmm.
and it was, it was built in the 1890s uh, as a kind of wild wilderness area in the middle of the city with by Frederick Olmsted.
Hmm.
So it had all kinds of streams and boulders and bridges. And it was sort of a labyrinth uh, of paths. But actually, my first cruising experiences when I'd go out to walk the family dog was in Riverside Drive Park late at night and the Soldiers and Sailors Monument on 86th Street. But the Rambles had a certain, it was really quite beautiful to hang out in. And, but I was always kind of shy uh, throughout my life. So I, I kind of spent more time watching people than actually participating.
So while I ask this next question, Arthur, would you mind turning your camera off and then on again? There should be a button that says video at the bottom of your toolbar in Zoom. So if you just press that button and turn the video off for a second and turn it back on, that'd be
Okay.
helpful. But we can still hear you. Um, so how did you find out what the
Here we go.
ramble was? I mean, this is, obviously pre-internet and pre sort of like mass gay media that would print stories of this is where you go to hook up, this is where you
Yes.
cruise. Like, how did you find out about what the ramble was?
Well, I I guess like any gay person at that time, one had a certain sense of what they call gaydar.
Hmm.
But of course, cruising was going on all over the city, just down in Christopher Street piers, uh, at bathhouses, and you just walk all down a street on the Upper East Side and look into picture windows and ask people, do you have the time? It was kind of and always an ongoing occupation, you know, mo- movie house, bathrooms. Uh, People were uh, very obsessed with it. And so, but I was, uh, I would often just take walks in Central Park on my way to the east side. And so your natural pathway would be to go through the Ramble.
Hmm.
But I think it was really more popular at night.
Yeah, that was actually my next question is when did people cruise? What time of day? So it was a nighttime thing.
No, there were a lot of people there during the day because it was often kind of a more social thing where people would sunbathe, meet their friends, walk their dogs. People would have sex in the bushes and behind trees, but because it was such a central park of Central Park, I mean, there were a lot of straight people and families and bird watchers walking through. It wasn't exactly private, but people, I think it was more popular at night, but it was always a little bit more dangerous. And there was gay bashing, of course, and police arrests. So I wouldn't do that. Uh,
So let's talk about the dangers where what dangers were you aware of? Did you ever witness anything or hear of anybody that was arrested or have a friend that was arrested?
Well, this even was late into the 70s when I read about something in the newspaper, in the New York Times, when a well-known Olympic star got seriously injured cruising in the Ramble at night. And it became a little bit of a scandal because he was outed that way.
Greg Louganis?
No, no, this was, uh, I don't really recall his name. It might have been Dick Button, who was a
Mhm.
ice skating figure. It
So
probably went on much more. It only got some notoriety because of the celebrity status of that person.
what did gay men do to avoid being caught? Like, what tricks did they do while they were turning tricks to avoid detection?
Um, well, they usually find a secluded area in the park, and I think gay men. There's certain areas of the Ramble that were very overgrown. It had been neglected for about 30 years, and there were fallen tree trunks and uh, broken pathways. So it's quite abandoned, actually.
So, were you more observer or participant, or both?
Well, I would prefer to be a participant, but I just didn't have the knack for.
You didn't have the knack for picking up guys?
That's not. It's interesting.
Oh, I bet you were so handsome with you had curly dark hair back then, right?
I
And
know, but
glasses.
I didn't have much self-esteem, or I just couldn't get myself over to, engage with people.
Okay. Um,
But also, there was a lot of rejection. I mean, it was almost a game that for
mhm.
people they didn't really want to hook up. They just loved cruising, and I think rejecting other people. There was a lot of body language that would say, "Oh, you're not right for me."
Well, that has not changed one bit, I'll tell you. In cruising online, were there unspoken rules of the cruising era? Was there etiquette? Um,
Oh, yes.
how you acted and how you dressed?
Uh, well, at that period, it's kind of interesting. Uh, there were no dress codes. There was no hanky code. There was no uh, sort of, um, you know, people dressed as lumbermen or bears or the various things. If you see the photographs in my upcoming book called The Ramble, uh, everyone's wearing different kinds of clothes. Some are kind of look very straight, some are a little bit more Nelly, some are wearing very tight pants. But at that time, it was just, but there were certain ways of standing, and people would wear tight pants so that their crotches and bulges would
Okay.
be emphasized. And that was kind of a signal that they were ready for action. And
I that's a very good piece of memory. I like that. Was there a hierarchy, maybe between older and younger men, white men and people of color, masculine and feminine types? Was there a pecking order of some sorts?
well, the movie idols of the 50s and 60s were always kind of handsome blonde guys
Hmm.
or muscular types. So they were like the premium catches, you might
Okay.
say.
Okay.
But they rarely appear. And also, one was always attracted to more straight looking people.
Okay.
Um, but so I think there was a hierarchy. Uh, this is not Christopher Street Pier, where the leather S&M people were, which had their own set of standards
Mm.
for that kind of look. And often people in the Ramble were from out of town.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, they did read about the Ramble. So you could sort of see that they would have that straight tourist Mormon look, but that sort of made them more attractive. And um, and there was, uh, people would be going from the west side to the east side. So there'd be actors and people going to a museum. But uh, so there was a great variety of people moving through the Ramble, actually. And in the summer, there were certain rocks where people would just go to sunbathe, sort of passive cruising.
Hmm.
And but it was just one of many spots. I remember taking the subway and the bus out to Jones Beach, and there was a cruising area there, a fire island, and in Prospect Park, uh, along the riverfront in Greenwich Village, for sure.
Did you ever make any like deep connections while you were cruising, or know anybody who did, who like maybe made friends or boyfriends or something,
Well,
just a
I
fleeting buck?
okay. Well, that having a boyfriend uh, or a romantic relationship, even though, I was brought up Jewish, and so your ideal was to get a doctor.
Lawyer and accountant, yes.
Yes, that was inbred. You need a professional. But so I'd always ask people, well, what do you do? And of course, they'd be very offended. One didn't make conversation in the rambles. It was when people had sex, you were asking about the rules. It was always no eye contact,
Hmm.
always very little conversation. It was very distant. And I'm not that kind of person. So I found that something I just couldn't really understand in a way, and I think it was a leftover more set of rules uh, that came from gays not really feeling very positive about themselves and feeling guilty and uh, that it was a world against personal connection. And so I accepted that, but I couldn't really comprehend it.
Um, and
Yeah.
I think that really segues a really interesting idea into the idea of even taking any photos in there when you say that eye contact was not part of the gesture.
Okay.
And yet you you bring this camera in there, which requires eye contact. And there's in fact some of your photos, it's the eyes, that contact, which is what a lot of people, viewers, have commented on in your photos. So let's talk about the process of taking the photos. How did that start? And was it a challenge to get anybody to even be photographed?
Well, that's interesting. Uh, Beginning in 1968, I became a kind of full-time professional photojournalist. And I traveled the world. I worked for different magazines, and I had specialized in tribal people, and I was very interested in rites and ceremonies. So I was kind of seeing the gay people having these kind of rituals, even though I was one of the tribe, uh,
Hmm.
having certain rites and ceremonies, uh, psychological ones. And uh, but I don't. This is the camera I use. It's pretty big and obvious if you're
Yeah.
taking someone's picture. But as I said, in day-to-day relations, I'm a kind of a shy person. You
Hmm.
know, hi, how do you do? Goodbye. You know. But when I pick up the camera, I sort of become a my inner dominatrix.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sad. I start telling people what to do. Oh, you stand there, you do this, bend your head. And also, because I had the camera in my hand, it would embolden me to go up and ask. If you're a photojournalist or you do go up and engage with people, you ask if you can take their pictures. And so it was a professional trait that I had developed. And so when I began bringing the camera to the Ramble, at first the pictures were distant, people kind of walking distantly through the woods, looking at each other down these paths. But I would go up to people and ask if I could do their portrait. And different types of people volunteered, sort of more East Village, uh, Twinkie kind of people, uh, dressed more effeminately,
Hmm.
would agree. But also all kinds of people would would let me do a series of portraits of them. And so the series is a combination of distant views plus a couple of intimate relevations of the people.
I think Nia, this might be a good time to pull up some of the images so we could look at them. So Nia is going to do a screen share, uh,
Okay.
and we're going to see some of these.
Oh, yes.
Now, this one technically, I think, uh,
Wherever
is,
you just let us know whichever one you want to highlight on.
let's go to the last one here, and then work backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, as I did it from uh, December till March. And so this was a young man who was shirtless in the park. And I did ask him to model behind these briar uh, twigs. You know, quite often I found that gay people of that period had a certain expression in their eyes.
Hmm.
Uh, and perhaps uh, hinting towards a kind of psychological distress. But also, you know, I had just been coming out. I saw a psychiatrist who said that gay was bad, you could be arrested, it was against nature. So I had very kind of my own set of guilt feelings, plus, what society is telling you all the time about being a faggot, since high school and all that. I was a little bit out unintentionally in high school. I had a reputation as the guy who'd give you a blowjob. But this is 1957, so uh but anyway, what's up?
Let's go to.
So it's a kind of a strong, what I'm saying really is when you do a portrait, it really is a mirror of your own kind of personality and feelings, you know. about yourself. So,
Uh, Arthur is inadvertently quoting John Sarkovsky's mirrors versus windows theory from the 1970s. I'm sure you're familiar with this. It's a MoMA book, Mirrors and
yeah.
Windows in Photography. It's this idea of photos are either um, a mirror into a photographer's inner world or a window into a world that maybe you don't ever see. And so you think your work is more mirror than window?
Well, in this particular set of gay portraits I was being, they have a sort of common denominator of anxious anxiety.
Yeah,
I think I pulled that out of, I don't know if it really existed in the models as much as it did in myself.
yeah.
But it
Nia,
makes for strong pictures. Anyway,
Nia, let's go to the shadow one, which is bottom row, second in.
Sure. Can I ask a question?
sure.
I'm very curious about something that Arthur said. You mentioned you shot in December to March, like
Yeah,
during the winter months. Do you think, and then you guys both sort of bring up the like mirror versus window idea and this like sort of precarity as a gay man that you were feeling that you think that you might have been projecting onto the subjects. Do you think that like uh the season that you shot in added to that? Because I think that knowing that you were shooting during the winter changes a lot. Like some of the men are very close to naked, and it's like the danger of being like you're just at risk without clothes on in the winter in comparison to like
yeah.
if this was being shot in July.
Okay. I think, uh, first of all, the trees were all bare in the winter, and it gave a kind of uh, film noir quality to the images, and also a kind of one of the visual themes of this series is this kind of labyrinth of intertwining branches, which was more relevant in the winter time. So there is a quality of risk in the pictures, but uh, later on, I I became more famous for my uh, stage photography, and so the picture that's on the screen is something that I set up, the man's shadow, and then the man down below with his hand on his crotch there, and they're cruising each other. They're kind of looking across that distance. Uh, but but you can really tell it's winter's light and
Mm.
had a kind of dark, ominous quality to it.
I definitely agree, and I think Nia, you're pulling up on something here that knowing Arthur's work, the winter light and the winter months really, I think, uh, it make his it it helps his vision. A lot of Arthur's work is a little bit on that a little spooky, a little bit like dreams or nightmares at times. And I think the barrenness of winter can amplify that look. And I'm seeing that across these images. So I want to talk about your idea of staging images. I've always thought a lot of your images look like something from a dream or a nightmare, and you did your dream series later on after this. Can you speak to that and how and why you created that through your staged imagery?
Well, uh, one, I this camera, it's not 35 millimeter. It's kind of slow and clunky, and uh, it just, I love uh, film. I actually just 3 or 4 years before I began this series, I had gone to a French film school, and I've made a few short films. So I was very involved in a kind of cinematographic feeling. but also uh, where things are directed. And of course, there was a shift beginning like with Dwayne Michaels to do what you could call directed photography. And I think I was caught up in that changing mode. People wanted to escape from street photography because it was all looking the same.
Yeah. But it's not quite studio is what you're getting to. You're not studio photography yet.
Yeah. And so in several of the pictures, there is that feeling that it's a still from some kind of crime thriller, some kind of movie.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Let's go to our image of the guy with the pants around his knees.
Yes,
Love this photo, by the way. This
yes,
is
it's
our
rather
lead photo.
extraordinary. He was quite happy to uh, pose for me, and then I did a few portraits of him just standing there, and then he opened up his jacket, and underneath he had this kind of outfit with just the rolled up pants. So
For easy access.
for easy access. And it was there's a kind of strangeness to the image where he's in the woods underneath the tree. And but that was a gesture that came from the model to do that.
One so I those of you who don't know, I work in academia. I work in the arts and academia, and I was showing some people some of these works, and one of the things that people kept on asking is, well, how can you show these photos if you don't have permission from these people? I'm like, it's not going to happen. These people are, who knows where this guy is, where he ended up, if he's still alive. Do you know about any of these guys that you photographed? Did you ever hear anything from them afterwards?
No, not really. But you know, uh, you know, I think they were all conscious and giving their assent because, as I say, I was asking them if I could photograph them,
Yeah.
and it was 65 years ago.
This guy, if he's still alive, would probably be about 80 to 85 years old, I would imagine.
Yes, like I am. But uh, people do, when I do these exhibits of my early work, people do contact me, and so it's always nice, to hear from the models after many years.
Let's go to the sweet one of the kids with the balloons.
Okay.
Top row, on the right. So out of the context of the ramble, like you could probably present this as a non-cruising image, um, but we are to assume that these are boys who are cruising. Uh, If they're, I mean, if they're even 18 years old, I don't know. Speak about this one, Arthur.
Well, I did one or two roles of these guys. They're sort of I think they were more kind of, just beginning this period, 1966, 67, was the flower people, more a hippie,
Yeah.
uh, hair, Aquarius kind of world. And it was a way of dressing and being in the world. And actually, they were probably more romantic and interested in the whole idea of loving and more out than their more kind of butch straight people. Uh, and uh, so I don't think they were there for cruising. I think they were just having a nice sunny New York day,
Mm,
trying to catch the scene
mm.
there.
Did you ever cruise in LA or San Francisco or Paris or any of the other places you traveled to? I think, Joe, we can probably stop the share at this point, unless Arthur, is there anything else you want to look at?
No, sure.
Tell me, did you ever cruise in places besides New York City?
Well, not Los Angeles, but my older sister lived in San Francisco. So uh, later, you know, uh, most public parks and bathrooms in San Francisco were kind of openly gay cruising places, and a lot of sex would be going on in there. And but again, I wasn't really very successful because it was always tight jeans with a certain kind of sexual odor. I don't know that I seemed to lack that other people, it was a way of just conforming your body that it would just, I'm just there for heavy sex.
Hmm.
And that would be the prenome, you know,
Yeah.
that would attract other men. So, uh, and of course, in San Francisco and in New York, there would be the bathhouses and the bars. Bars are big parts, but I don't drink or smoke. So I was I was always kind of a bathhouse wallflower.
Um, I do know that where I live in Atlanta, there are a few parks where people cruise. Oftentimes it's like college kids and maybe businessmen. It's not something I participate in. Um, One thing I've been thinking about is, did people just ever go back to their apartments rather than have sex in the park? Because that's what I would have done.
Yes, no, I mean, uh, I um, I think as you got into the uh, Stonewall made a big difference. Stonewall was just later that summer of '69.
Yeah.
And I think it really did liberate gay men to have more enriching experiences amongst each other,
Hmm.
with each other. This is before AIDS.
Yeah.
So I would often bring people back to my apartment or go to their apartments. And people began looking for what is known as the boyfriend. And so the whole, and so it seemed to be divided into two camps, the kind of honcho magazine, kind of rough sex, and kind of the Christopher Street, which was more a kind of nerdy, badly dressed
Hmm.
group of more literary people, and not with the beautiful bodies. And but they were pushing partners. They kind of felt that there was something lacking in this cruising gay world. And but I made and sold pictures to both groups.
My next
I have to
question.
say something. In
Yes.
around 1977, I made friends with a gay writer named Perry Brass, who wrote for both Honcho, Mandate, and Christopher Street. And he got me to start selling my photos to those magazines.
Hmm.
I became a full-time gay photographer of the gay scene
Hmm.
for about 4 or 5 years.
Hmm. When you look back on your work from that time, what emotions come up? Is it nostalgic? Is it sad? Are you proud?
Well, you know, uh, I around 1980, I did a book called Tress Facing Up. And uh, it was a collection of my gay photos of New York. So, what was your question again?
How do you feel when you look at these
Yeah.
photos?
And see, when you're now they're historically important,
Yes.
right? Because, and of course, but when you're immersed in the moment, you don't realize the historical importance of what you're doing and capturing and documenting in a certain way. And so, uh, and I kind of knew Maplethorpe. There was a great deal of rivalry between New York City photographers and competition. So I kind of wanted to go darker than Maplethorpe. And I really started to explore gay archetypes, gay sexual archetypes in a kind of Jungian way. And just, I just thought it was the most amazing kind of subculture to explore.
Do you
And
think you had a rivalry with Robert Mapplethorpe?
well, he and his boyfriend, Sam Wagstaff, never bought one of my photos. I'd say that. They barely acknowledged me. Yes, they were, Maplethorpe, he only did studio photography primarily.
Yeah.
And but I was, out in the trenches with the real people. So we'll see whose work lasts in the end. I think he's already dated.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's a name brand today for sure.
Sorry, that's just my New Yorker coming out.
What do you wish that today's young gay people would understand about cruising and queer life before Stonewall?
Well, that was interesting. I don't have a smartphone, and I'm I guess so I don't understand that dating scene at all. But I think it's wonderful that you can. Some of it seems very like you go on it for instant sex, so it doesn't seem too much different from the earlier. But I'm
Mhm.
sure there are dating apps and
Well,
romantic
a lot
apps.
of what you've described about the hierarchy, about how more masculine guys are more
Yeah.
closed off, how more maybe effeminate guys feel like they've got less to lose and they're more open, that has not changed one bit.
Okay. Well, someone told me in Los Angeles, people have gone back to analog cruising, which
Okay.
which is happens around Griffith Park in
Okay.
Los Angeles. So it's kind of making a comeback.
Okay.
And but again, what was your question? What?
What else would you want today's young people to know about that
Oh,
time?
yeah. Well, you know, even before AIDS came on the scene, gay people were looking for ways to form friendship and intimate connections outside of bars, cruising in bathhouses. So they began forming groups like gay hiking groups, gay jogging groups, gay going to the theater together, dinner groups. I joined them all. And and there were a lot of nice connections there. You could meet people as you were jogging along and talk to them. And then they'd go to a coffee shop afterwards. Uh, so gay people themselves began creating baseball. Some of it was an imitation of heterosexual norms, but that could be fine actually in a way.
Hmm.
So
We,
I don't know. Uh, I do tell friends. I said, well, also there were gay therapy groups, gay men's groups, because gay men of the when we decided that uh, dating and admitting that you wanted to be loved by another person, which could really be a main goal in your life, they just didn't have the apparatus. They had no clue on how to date someone and have a dinner. So I tell young people, you know, when you see someone you're attracted to, there's a certain tension of attraction, but that you should at least have 4 or 5 dates before you sleep with them, because that way, you if you're compatible, you know, don't blow off the steam too quickly. So that's about my own
We've got 10
experience.
minutes left. We've got 10 minutes left in this conversation.
Sure.
If you are if you are here and you would like to ask a question, maybe you can send it in a private message to Nia and she'll ask. I'll also open this up to our Apex Art folks. If
Sure.
Stephen or Mariam or Joseph have any questions, let's go for it. Nia, looks like you are back on.
Well, I just wanted to agree with what you were saying. If people aren't comfortable with turning their camera on or unmuting themselves, then they can leave their question as a chat. Otherwise, feel free to say what you'd like. I think that there was a moment where you started to ask this question, Matt, but then it didn't actually, I guess, become fully formed. But
Yeah.
I was wondering, Arthur, if there was like something in particular or a moment in particular that made you want to bring your camera into the ramble.
Okay, that's a good question. As when I began the project, uh, I had previously been photographing different tribal groups. I did the Mayans in Mexico, Eskimos, Lap people. Uh, One of my main jobs was tribal groups in Africa. So I really did see gay people as a kind of uh, tribal group that I wanted to kind of investigate. And uh, and of course, I brought a lot of my own personal experiences into that particular series. So, but I only shot about 25 rolls of film, and I'm sorry I didn't do more. There was, these pictures couldn't be published. There was no audience for them at that time. No magazine would publish them. So I got caught up in other projects, and but we've rediscovered them, and so I think that's important.
Um, we had somebody in the chat saying they want to see more of Arthur's photos. All of the images from the show can be seen at the show's main site, which I've posted in the chat. And so you can see literally every single image from the show, all of Arthur's photos in the show in there. There is also a virtual Matterport walkthrough. So if you are unable to physically attend the show, you can experience the physical virtually through the Matterport. Also, reminder while it's still got a few minutes, the show is open through July 26th. Apex Art is open Tuesday through Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. It is located at 291 Church Street in Manhattan in Tribeca. The closest train station is the Canal Street ACE. It looks like Stephen Rand's about to ask a question as well.
I've had people, oh, thank you for this, Arthur. It's really great to listen to. I've had people say things to me like, it was so much nicer when it was less complicated. Do you feel the identity issue has become overcomplicated in any way?
Oh, what do you mean? Like, you know, he, she, gender identity kind
Well,
of
I've
thing.
had people say, God, I wish I could just be gay again.
Oh, okay. Well, um, no, I'm just a simple gay person. I like men particularly. I like gay culture. I don't overthink it, to say the least. And I'm
And
living in San Francisco, so there's a lot of gay culture here. And
also
men,
to sort of piggyback off of Stephen's question, something that Arthur said
yeah.
earlier, Arthur pointed out that the the guys cruising in Central Park were a different group and different rules of engagement than the Leathermen down in the piers
Yeah.
and Christopher Street. And so I think that sort of speaks to the fact that maybe it's always kind of been like that. Like there's always been sort of like the niche groups inside the gay community. And while we do have gay as the overarching, I think we've always sort of had these sort of like little breakdown communities with their own small rules and their own sets of rituals as well.
Yeah. No, it's, you know, uh, my mother used to take me to Radio City Musical um, when I was a child. She also took me to see Judy Garland's last show at I think, the Roxy Movie Theater. I think mothers raise one gay son who'll take care of them when they get old. But anyway, the whole point is, I, yes. So I want to mention that uh, there will be a book of about 50 of the Rambles photos coming out in the fall from Stanley Barker Publishing in the UK. And I think with it's going to be a very popular book in a way.
What
You
about
know what? I catch the point. So um, excess, you know, I've always been things that are interested that are surreal because they're over the top, because they're kitschy, super kitschy. And I think the atmosphere of the Ramble, it was so strange. It was surreal in itself. All these labyrinthine paths and people in different costumes. It was like the carnival in Venice. You know, it was just pure Arthur Tress land, as it turned out. So I think that's why I kind of responded to that. You know, there's an essay in the new Getty Museum catalog on queer. What is queer? It's a love of the grotesque, of the outsider, you know, of the over the topness that makes gay art particularly special. And
Mhm.
I think, you know, another photographer could have come and done the rambles. People would be smiling, they'd be doing this and that, but not me. You know, it was a different vision.
it's a mirror.
Yes.
It's a beautiful mirror into Arthur's world. All right, so I'm going to wrap this conversation up. Thank you, everybody who took the time to come out today online for this. We will have more virtual events for this, I believe, on July 11th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Nia and Mariam are going to fact check me on that. We've
Yes.
got the AIDS quilt, going to have a conversation with the AIDS quilt with them. Also, we are looking probably going to have a closing reception because I'm going to be there. We will have a movie screening, most likely on July 26th. Another screening of the short film Son of Sam and Delilah by Charles Atlas. We had a really great screening earlier this month on that. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or I don't know, come see the show. I really hope everybody will come see the show in person. Anything else, Nia and Stephen, before we sign off?
No, but thank you so much, everyone. Like Matt said, if you have any further questions, you can reach out to him or to us at Apex, like at info@apexart.org or on one of our social media platforms, and we can get back to you. And please, if you are in New York or going to be in New York sometime this month or next month, please check out the exhibition.
Mm.
Okay.
And thank you to Stephen Rand for this wonderful organization. I want to remind everybody before we sign off, Apex Art is a 501c3 nonprofit, which means that they can take tax-deductible donations as well. And so if you're interested in that, you can go to apexart.org. They are an educational art institution doing work that nobody else is doing in the arts community because of this really cool structure that Stephen Rand has had in place for 30 years, 29 years. So yes, thank you, Stephen Rand, for all the work you do. We really appreciate it.
Well done. Thank you, Matt.
All
Thank
right.
you, Arthur.
Thank you, Arthur, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I will hopefully see you in the gallery next month. Bye.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.
Hmm.